Well, hello and welcome. I'm glad that you're with us here again as we continue our journey through the Bible in a chronological way. We are presently in the book of Job. When we ended yesterday, Elihu was halfway through his four discourses. Elihu was at times direct and harsh in his words, but he also is the only one of the friends to call Job by his name and to speak to him with at least some compassion. Elihu also was upset with the other friends for condemning Job, even though they could not refute Job's insistence that he was innocent of the things that they had accused him of. Elihu is taking a more reasonable approach. He's defending God's integrity, against Job's accusations of capriciousness, or at the very least of being arbitrary. And he's directing Job to relook at his position from God's point of view rather than just his own. As Elihu continues today in his third discourse, he notes that God's exercise of justice will not always align with our way of thinking. Once again, Elihu may overstate his position a little bit by putting words into Job's mouth that it doesn't really appear Job had said. But his overall point that God sees things differently than we do, and that it's wrong to accuse God of, piling on just because we don't understand. Elihu notes that God is so great and we are so small that our opinion really has no effect on his person. He's not saying that God doesn't care, but only that God's person is not affected by our actions, whether they're good or bad. Elihu closes this discourse by noting that God may delay delivering the suffering for his own purposes, and quite frankly, that's his prerogative. We can summarize that discourse in this way. Elihu states that Job is wrong to accuse God of being unjust. Elihu is correct to warn Job not to judge God, and Job should not expect all that God does to make sense to him, or to us for that matter. So Elihu's fourth and final discourse in chapters 36 and 37 it's considerably longer than any of the others had been up till now. Elihu moves now to the majesty of God. The majesty of God is depicted particularly in nature. And in this case, the image of a thunderstorm. Because God is all wise, his dealings with men are perfect and they're fair, even if we don't understand how that can be. God is also kind and compassionate, again, even if we don't get it. And because God is all powerful, he will always carry out his purpose in the end. There's just nothing that can stop it. Elihu insists that Job should submit to God humbly, even if it means suffering, rather than seeking to confront God. The bottom line is that when the God-fearing are afflicted, God has only their good in his mind. As we move into chapter 37, the image of a thunderstorm, even a winter storm, moves squarely into the center of everything. Elihu reminds Job how small he is in comparison to the vastness of creation. Job insists on meeting with God, and Elihu makes note of how useless and presumptuous, and therefore even dangerous, such a meeting could be. So, if we were to review all of Elihu's discourses to this point, all four of them, we'd end up with the following. In the first one, God is always good, even when he sends great afflictions on his own. In the second one, God is just, always. We just don't always understand it. In the third one, God does not always exercise justice in ways that make sense to us. And then in the fourth one, the one we just finished, when God afflicts or allows the affliction of the God-fearing, he has only their good in mind. Pieper puts it this way. He says, God is good even when he smites, God is just even when we do not understand. Well, we have 2 more days to spend in Job. Tomorrow we're going to hear the beginning of God's words to Job as Job receives the audience that he requested, even it turns out rather different than Job probably had initially imagined. May God be with you, bless you. Look forward to meeting with you again tomorrow.